The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Joy Barrett. I'm the Executive Director with the Granite State Children's Alliance. We operate 5 child advocacy centers here in New Hampshire. And over the years, I've had the privilege of working with some really incredible organizations here in New Hampshire, and it just gives me a great privilege to be able to have this opportunity to talk to executive directors throughout the state about the work that they do. And I want to challenge all of you out there to really think of the word nonprofit in a different way when you start to learn about the organizations in our great state. We have great profits. We are empowering people. We're protecting children. We're preserving our environment. And so I want you to tune in to New Hampshire Cares and really learn a little bit about our nonprofit, our great state of New Hampshire, and the work that we do for people in our community. Thank you for joining New Hampshire Cares. I feel like I have a reunion right now with my friend Joe Manzoli from the YMCA of Greater Nashua. He is the Chief Operating Officer there. Joe, I am so happy to see you, really.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
I know. We worked together when I was at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and of course there was a great partnership between that organization and the Y, and again, it was a sight for sore eyes having you come in, so thank you so much.
That's my pleasure.
It's really great. So maybe tell us a little bit about, for people that are watching, most people know the Y really well. Mm-hmm. You have 2 locations, Nashua, certainly, and Merrimack. But there might be some viewers that are not familiar with it, so maybe tell us a little bit about the YMCA.
Sure. I don't know if you have enough time for that. But the YMCA, we have 2 branches, one here in Nashua and one in Merrimack. We also have a day camp property in Merrimack. Mm-hmm. And we now have a resident camp up in Pennacook we just started this summer.
Oh, wow.
So we, our cause is to strengthen community. So we look at ways we can improve the health of people in our community. We look at ways we can nurture the potential of kids and teens, and ways we can give back to the community wherever we can. So we have over 300 programs. We serve over 30,000 people each year.
That's terrific.
And one of the things we're most proud of is that we give out about $600,000 in financial assistance each year to families who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford childcare and camp and membership to the YMCA.
That's terrific.
So we have everything.
Well, it's funny because when depending on the audience that you talk to, when you think about the Y, I mean, it speaks to how multidimensional it is. People go there as a club. Mm-hmm. So they go and exercise, or they take a Zumba class. As a matter of fact, I've done that with my little sister before.
Yeah.
And then there are some that use it for childcare. And so it becomes this incredible venue in which there is all these different programming pieces. And I think what's really special about it is it really hits everybody in this community.
Right.
It's pretty terrific. So the Pembroke camp, so is that like a sleepover camp? Is that?
Yes, it's Camp Spalding. It's in Pennacook, so right outside right outside of Concord. And it's a sleepaway camp. It's been run by Child and Family Services for 75 or 80 years. And last fall they gave us a call and they decided they wanted to go in a different direction and reached out to us to see if we'd be willing to run the camp for them. And I grew up going to a resident camp and have run summer camps before, and we had somebody else on staff who had that same experience. So we felt we were in a good position to be able to take that on. So this was our first summer, and it's been a huge success.
I bet.
We've been serving kids from all over New England, many of whom Child and Family Services is still providing
referrals
camperships.
For. Yep.
And so they're sending kids who otherwise would never be able to have that kind of experience.
I think there was, matter of fact, I think I know the camp pretty well. There was a program up, it was the a center inside the prison in Concord used to have kids come whose parents or father were incarcerated.
Right.
And Family Connection Center used to be a nice referral, and there used to be a week where kids could go. And I think that was the exact camp,
right,
wasn't it?
And we still do that.
You do?
We've continued that program, and it's a program we wouldn't have thought of, but it's such a need for kids whose parents are incarcerated. They get to have a special day with their parents at the prison. They go there and they run basically a camp day. So it's a really neat service that we were excited to be able to continue to provide.
That makes you guys very busy, right?
It does.
Your summer, when the rest of us maybe in the nonprofit world, or at least we're hoping, certainly not in the industry I'm in, but we're hoping that the summers kind of slow down a little bit. You're putting on a different hat and becoming, running camps and childcare, with school not in session. So it must get really busy.
It does. We've had over 500 kids a day in our day camps between Camp Sargent, the Merrimack branch, the Nashua branch, and then another maybe 75 kids or so a day up at Camp Spalding. On top of the day camps, we started a program this summer called the Summer Learning Loss Prevention Program. We partnered with Ledge Street Elementary School. Kids who are in low-income families, come from low-income neighborhoods, generally are losing 2.5 months of reading over the summer. So they come back in September 2.5 months behind their peers. The program, this is a national program that the YMCA rolled out. We just launched it this summer at Ledge Street. And what the program has done, it's a 6-week program, completely free for the students in the program. And what we found is that kids in that program generally are gaining 2.8 months. So they're actually coming back in September ahead of their peers in a lot of ways.
You're breaking the cycle, Joe Manzoli.
That's right. We're trying.
That's
so
pretty
it's been
terrific.
It's exciting work, and but yeah. So the summer it was already busy, and we just made ourselves busier.
You
with that
made
kind of work.
busier.
Right.
Well, it's, to that point, obviously you've got an enormous staff that can support that capacity. Tell us a little bit about. Obviously, we know there's the Nashua location, and then there's more HQ, which is probably in Merrimack. How large is your organization from a people person standpoint?
Sure, we have about 400 employees, mostly part-time. So we have staff that range in age from 16 up into their 80s. One of our office managers in our corporate office is, I think, 83.
Wow.
She's going to yell at me when she sees this. She's wonderful.
She's going to deny it.
She might. No, she's proud of it. She's proud of it. And then we have volunteers. I can't even count how many volunteers we have, and that's really the lifeblood of any not-for-profit is people giving of their time.
Sure.
So we're a pretty big beast here in terms of the number of people we employ and the number of people who volunteer, and it's a lot to manage. But as I said, we're serving 30,000 people, so you need a lot of people to do
right, exactly. Well, and you have a lot of, especially your organization where you have a lot of venues, you have a lot of facilities to take care of, hence your position, operations. I mean, that's a huge responsibility right there. There are all these other components, not to mention development and program, but there's, running those. I mean, that's a huge effort. Huge effort. Matter of fact, both our organizations, the Hillsborough County Child Advocacy Center and the Y, were beneficiaries for the triathlon, which was at Camp Sargent, and that was the first time I had been to Camp Sargent.
Oh, really?
I was completely impressed.
Yeah.
I wanted to set up shop in one of the little teepees and live there for a week. It was adorable.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful place.
It really is.
It's 22 acres of beautiful land on Lake Natticook, and
it
was actually a resident camp. Started in 1921, I believe, and as Merrimack got more and more built out, that property just didn't really lend itself to being a resident camp anymore as the school was built across the street. So it was turned into a day camp in the 60s, and so we have I think 300 kids a day, 300, 400 kids a day out there.
I couldn't believe it, and because I knew about Sargent, Camp Sargent, and but this was the first time that I had been with this organization and that event, and I of course worked the day before and volunteered and whatnot, but I was completely amazed with it, and it looks like some of the resident housing that might have once been bunks.
Yeah.
There's a craft room, and it was just your quintessential camp.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty terrific.
Yeah.
That is really great.
It's cool too to go out there or to go to Camp Spalding and just see kids just being kids. There's no technology there. There's just a different spirit at camp. And I'm a product of YMCA camps, so I'm pretty passionate about that. And I always go back to years ago we had a camper with autism, and he had a one-on-one aide, and the aide came to me one day and just said, he doesn't get treated like this at school. The other kids just treat him so much better here. There's just something about that environment, being outdoors, being a little disconnected from technology, that kids just don't feel the same social pressures that they do in school. So
and our kids are so overscheduled that even though they can be in a safe environment in a camp, and of course there's supervision and there's structure to it, it feels unstructured, and it allows again for a lot of that creativity and being outside. But yeah, I thought it was terrific. You got to have a week just for adults.
Yeah,
as a tour, everybody just go and check it out, because it really was. I was really impressed, and I've been here 25 years. Had never been there before, so it was great.
Great. Did you do the triathlon?
I did not.
Oh, come on, you should have.
I would like to try at some point to do. Did you?
No.
No. Okay. Well, maybe I'll do a leg of it, and you do a leg of it, and then we'll find. Maybe Mike can join us.
Sure.
We'll throw him in the We'll throw him in the lake.
Okay.
Because I don't want to do any
swimming.
Don't either.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. So now you've been with the Y for about 7-8 years.
Yes.
This particular Y, but you have a history with YMCA's.
I do.
And maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Gosh, I like to say that I was hired by the YMCA because I could sing a good camp song. And no, I won't sing now.
Okay, come on.
But I went to, when I was 11 years old, my parents asked if I wanted to go to a summer camp. And I'd been to a couple of camps prior to that, but there were some kids from my hometown that were going to this particular camp. It was a YMCA camp. And I just fell in love. And it became a place for me to sort of come out of my shell a little bit. I was kind of a quiet guy. But being at camp, it just opened up whole new worlds for me. And so when I graduated from college, I went to the Y that ran that summer camp and just said, trying to figure out what to do with my life. And shortly after that, I got a call, and so I started at the Cheshire County YMCA.
Okay.
Which is now in Swansea, New Hampshire. It's
a
tiny little YMCA, and I was the county program director, which just meant I ran programs in the county. So I was sort of run around to different schools, and I took kids on trips to Washington, D.C. That was sort of a big program for me. And then I left there and went to the YMCA Greater Boston. So I had a very different experience.
Wow, urban.
Yes, yeah. So I was hired. I've been very fortunate in my career. And have met some great people along the way that have sort of coached me into different positions. And so I went to Waltham, and then I was in Dorchester, which was quite an experience to be at the Dorchester Y.
Sure.
And then I gave Mike LaChance a call. Mike's the CEO of the YMCA Greater Nashua. I had seen a job posting at that time to be the director of the Nashua branch, the old branch down on Prospect Street.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started there in February of 2008, and shortly after that, we restructured, and I became COO and oversaw all of our operations.
All the operations. That's great. My daughter learned how to swim on Prospect Street.
Oh, really?
In 1991.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you've been around a lot of Ys,
yes.
Which, and it's interesting because I think in any industry, a lot of people, move around from different places. Gone are the day where you're at somewhere for 30 years and then you get the watch and you're, retired.
Right.
But I find it really interesting. You bleed YMCA.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, if there's a color, it's coming out of you. I mean, that is pretty terrific that you have such a long-standing history. And I think what's really interesting too is that you've seen so much diversity within YMCA's. They all have their different flavors, depending on what community you're in, whether it's Cheshire County, here in Nashua, Dorchester, that you've really seen it all.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Joe Manzoli.
Because play might be the best way to fight obesity.
Because staying connected makes my family stronger, healthier, and happier.
Because a safe place after school
can lead to success in school.
Because physical activity is vital to my health and well-being.
Because I need to make my world better.
Because playing team sports teaches the character and social skills that build leaders.
Because learning with others makes for a greater understanding.
Because we need each other.
Because we need each other.
Because we need each other.
Thank you for tuning back in. I am here with Joe Manzoli from the YMCA of Greater Nashua, and of course he is the Chief Operating Officer there. We are old friends from my time at Big Brothers Big Sisters, so again, it's so nice to have you on. And you know, when we left off the last segment, you know, we talked a little bit about how diversified your experiences with YMCA's, you know, not only throughout New England, but also in different positions. And is there any particular memorable experience that you have that comes right to the forefront that you'd like to share with all that history?
Yeah, I think there's so many, and I'm one of the reasons I'm so passionate about what we do is that selfishly, I've been given so many great experiences to give back and to be able to see the impact of our work right away. The one that always jumps to mind when someone asks is and really tested me as a younger professional. I mentioned earlier that I used to take groups of kids on trips to Washington and Gettysburg, and I would call it the American Heritage Tour. Yeah. And I had a trip scheduled to go out on September 18th, 2001. Okay. And on September 11th, I actually had a parent meeting scheduled for that night. And we obviously didn't go, but to try to manage and work with those kids who had been working for a year, preparing for that trip, to make sure that they still could get that experience, just not when we were scheduled to go.
Sure.
When we did go, we were on that trip in the fall of 2002, when some snipers started opening fire on random people throughout Washington. So kind of every night, I don't know if you remember this, but there was like a father and son, I think, who were shooting people at random. So every night you'd hear something on the news about this happening, and we were in Washington.
I remember that.
I remember very distinctly sort of navigating through that and figuring out what to do, and there happened to be a shooting near where we were staying with 150 kids.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember standing in the bottom of Union Station with a couple of my volunteers, and just working through what we were going to do. And it was such a great learning experience for me, not only in how to lead through that crisis, if you will, but to work with volunteers specifically, but we'll just work with other people to come to a consensus of what's best for those kids, what's best for the why.
Sure. And so, keeping them calm.
Correct.
You know, here they are on a field trip. They've already had the tragedy of 9/11, which, you know, regardless of the field trip or not, was, you know, devastating.
Right.
And now to be away and have, you know, that tragic experience, and, you know, you're being able to keep these kids calm. Right. And I would imagine their parents calm back in New Hampshire. That was probably the worst.
And we had a great team of people back in Keene who were taking care of that for me. But we wanted to make sure the kids still had a great experience, and that something like that wasn't going to ruin it. So we left Washington, but we added some other stops. We went to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and we spent a little extra time in Gettysburg, and still made sure that they had a great time. But I remember a real sense of relief when I got on the bus for the last time at Ellis Island. We got back on the bus to drive back to New Hampshire, and I thought, okay, great, we're done. Yeah.
Phew.
So that one always sort of jumps out because it was kind of a big,
that was
big experience, and
well, and it tested you as a professional, like you said. You know, it was one of those times where you were faced with that challenge, and you know, you couldn't just throw your hands in the air and panic yourself, or you know, you had to figure it out. Right. You know, and you weren't even home. Right. You know, with a team, so.
Yeah. And so that's a kind of a big memory, but I'm just kind of flooded with memories of really it's the small things that really jump out at me. You know, times where just seeing our programs impact people the way they're supposed to. That's really what I remember the most, wherever that's been, and whether that's been in an urban setting like Dorchester or more rural in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, or here in Nashua. I've been able to see some great things happen.
Well, and the impact, we were talking at the break, the impact spans every age, from early childhood. You talked about the reading program with working with Ledge Street School, but even some of your wellness programming for older adults that strikes me as probably something that lets you sleep really well at night.
Right.
That you're able to really see those people come around full circle, and maybe they're seeing you because of a crisis. Maybe there's a family in need that's utilizing the services, or an adult who is faced with cancer, and then you're seeing that other side of the benefits. So maybe tell us a little bit about, again, you probably need more than the hour, like you said, or the half hour, but a little bit more about some of those other programming pieces that really resonate and maybe people are not aware of.
Sure. I think the programs that we're really excited about right now are our chronic disease prevention programs. The Y, we have over 2,500 locations throughout the country, and every Y operates independently, but we still are connected. And so really there are very few organizations that are better situated to handle big problems. Not-for-profits are nimble, and we don't have to deal with as much red tape as, say, a federal agency would. And so what we've found as a movement over the last, say, 10 years or so is that we can, when we work together, solve big problems. And so I mentioned the summer learning loss prevention program earlier, because that's a real problem, closing that achievement gap. Our chronic disease prevention programs are another way that we're strengthening the community. So a couple that we've been running, one is Live Strong at the YMCA. We've partnered with the Live Strong Foundation for a free program for cancer survivors.
That's great.
And we started that a few years ago, and we've served hundreds of cancer survivors to come in and help regain their strength. Not just physically. That's what we speak about is their physical strength, but their emotional and mental strength, to see that group. It's not meant to be a support group, but it's really what it becomes.
Sure.
And we've seen people just make huge strides in their recovery as a result of that program. Another great program that we started here locally 8 years ago is Prescribe the Y. Yeah. So we worked with local pediatricians to have them actually refer children who are a little overweight. They get a free program at the Y for 12 weeks, and they meet with a nutritionist and one of our fitness staff twice a week for 12 weeks. There's also a family component to that, just teaching those kids healthier habits.
Sure.
And at the end of that program, we actually give, for the kids who successfully complete it, the whole family gets a free membership.
Wow.
The other thing we did, and this is really something that's, I think, very special about Nashua, and I actually remember you probably 7 years ago saying, everyone in Nashua plays nicely together. And having been in a number of communities, I see that, and Prescribe the Y is a great example. I saw you at lunch one day, and I was meeting with someone who was involved with our Prescribe the Y program. We were trying to figure out what was next, and we realized that these kids kind of needed a little extra help outside of the program to help them stay on track. And we said, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we had a mentoring program? And we looked across, and there you were having lunch, and I said, wait, Big Brothers Big Sisters, they're the best at that. Let's work with them to provide bigs for these kids. So we've been doing that for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years now.
That's great.
And it's been a great component to that program to help those kids. So they're learning these great habits in the program, but now they've got a buddy who can help them outside of the program.
Well, it makes them a little accountable, I think, was one thing that we found with that, but it also provides them that layer of support that's outside the home, which obviously Big Brothers Big Sisters is really a fan of, is that it's someone from outside that really takes an interest and is an extra caring adult. But, and I think to that, that point about the way the nonprofits really work together, it really is pretty remarkable, because it allows us to really boost the capacity of all our organizations.
Yeah.
And that it was a pleasure working with Prescribe the Y, and I'm glad to hear that it's doing so well.
Oh, it's going great. We serve about 150 kids a year. And so again, they're getting referrals from their doctors. And we could probably serve even more. We just have to figure out the capacity.
The capacity to
how
do that.
How can we manage that? And so we're starting to see more programs like that where we can work with the medical community because of our resources and how nimble we can be, and we can do things much more efficiently. Another example is we have a diabetes prevention program that once somebody becomes diabetic, there's no going back. But we found that you can prevent diabetes. So when someone has certain markers, we can get them on a program to really change their lifestyle. It's not a fitness program that we're running. It's really it's a year-long program to help people identify and make small goals. Right? It's very easy to tell somebody, don't drink soda anymore, and that might work for a week.
Right.
But so we have to make small changes. Maybe say, well, don't drink soda on Tuesday. Let's try that. And so they actually set their own goals. But that's a program that was actually designed by the CDC. And when they were running it, it was costing thousands of dollars for them to run it. And so they turned to the YMCA and said, with all your locations and all your resources, can you scale this? And so we're able to do it much more efficiently at a much lower cost and be able to serve even more people.
And serve more. It becomes a public health issue, right? I mean, prevention ends up being not the shiny object that we tend to support and fund because we'll have a crisis in front of us or we'll have a certain need that's in front of us. And although that is really important, if we don't get ahead of it, we're never going to prevent or, we're never going to end this, situation here. And so, I applaud you for the work that you do with diabetes and Prescribe the Y and, encouraging that healthy lifestyle. It isn't all about nutrition, it's about health and health of that individual. Then if you really take that from a 30,000-foot view, now you're looking at health of a community. So starting with a family and then a community and then it just lends itself to that. So that's terrific. Now how, again, knowing that all nonprofits are supported differently, obviously if I probably look at your pie chart, you probably have a lot of different slices.
We do.
Tell us a little bit about where most of your support comes from. And we have about a minute left, but I would love to give you that opportunity.
Sure. We fund our operations through membership and program fees. We fund our financial assistance. As I said earlier, we give out over $600,000 in financial assistance. We fund that through private donations. So individuals, local individuals, some foundations, some businesses have been very generous over the years. We still have a long way to go. There's a gap there. There's some of that amount that we give out, we eat. And we find other ways to make it work, and we make do with what we have. So we can always raise more money for that. But we've got a pretty diverse funding source, so that which allows us to do a lot more than we would be if we were only relying on one source.
Yeah. Well, and you've gotten smart of obviously it's a well-oiled machine. You've been around for a while, and you really know where the needs are, and being able to make it so that it's a fair opportunity for everybody in the community is terrific, and the generosity of the people that support those events that allow that piggy bank to be there is pretty great. But well, Joe Manzoli, I am so happy to have you on, and again, thank you so much for your time and great work. Really great work. I know a little bit more about you, and really pretty fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy.
Well, of course, I really want to say Joe Manzoli Cares, but thank you for tuning in to New Hampshire Cares, and join us next time. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.